Hey everyone, welcome back to the Real Talk Laz Podcast. I am your host, Laz. This is our fourth podcast episode of season 2, and I'm excited to have Rickey joining us today. Again, sir, it's an absolute honor to have you on today. I really appreciate you for taking the time out of your schedule and joining, so thank you very much.
Yes, sir. I'm Rick. I am a recovering alcoholic with a passion for helping others. I viewed addiction like a sinking ship, and I've caught my breath, and I'm coming back to help as many as possible. I recently um, received my certified recovery support specialist certification. And I work with men's group a lot because I identify with men and what men struggle with because I'm a man. So that's who I work with.
Awesome. No, thank you for that, and thank you for what you do. And to your one point about like males, right? Like, my podcast is really all things mental health, but obviously I focus and I can speak only to the men's side, right? Because that's what I can relate to, right? Like I can't relate to women, and I
Yeah.
understand women go through their own thing, but I definitely always reiterate that because I understand we all go through something. That's life, but I can only speak to and relate to the men's side, as you pointed. So, cool.
Right.
No, thank you for that, and thank you for what you do, and it's very much appreciated. So, um, I guess kind of just jumping in right to the questions and stuff. Like, what's something you've been through that maybe people won't guess by looking at you?
I don't surprise people by much. So one thing I can tell you I've been through is April 16th of last year, I died multiple times on the operating table during heart surgery. Or as my surgeon would put it, you went to see God.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not where my trauma stems from, and this is something we might circle around towards the
Yep.
end of this conversation. But that is something that most people wouldn't think that I've been through.
Wow.
Um, from a mental health standpoint, um, my first marriage, I was married for 20 years, and this is not to talk bad about someone else's mental health, but my wife was bipolar. And this was a long time ago. And this people didn't really know a lot about mental health,
Mm-hmm.
especially here in the South. You don't talk about mental health. This has just now become a thing where we're being outspoken about things like that. Uh,
Yeah.
so, so her mental health affected me greatly. And so after 18 years of that marriage, we went through a very traumatic divorce. Everything you can think of besides someone dying happened during this 2-year divorce. Kids were kidnapped and carried to other states. Just anything you can think of, this happened. And I thought as a man, I could handle all of this stuff on my own. I'm a man, I can deal with it. I'll talk to a couple guys here or there. I'll pray about it. Um, but what happened to me was I always just thought that we just like to drink. We might drink more than everybody else. We handled it. I've always had good jobs, made good money, but when I went through all this traumatic experience, I could not cope, and I began to use alcohol on a lot deeper level than I even realized at the time. Um, so after all that was over, several years of separation from her, divorce, all that. Uh, I went through a lot of ups and downs through that period, and my drinking really got out of hand. I ended up getting married again, and but my wife had no idea because I hid it very well. I'm a laid back guy, so nobody really knew how much I was drinking. So me and my wife got married in June, and our two youngest daughters. She had two daughters. I had two daughters. So our two oldest ones were out of the home. And so our two youngest ones, I think they were 14 and 15 at the time. And it was great. We all lived together. We all worked so well together. And I started getting frustrated. I'm like, so my drinking had really become a problem, you know. And I'm like, I've got everything I want, and this is killing me. And it's so manipulating and lying to yourself that I was to the point where I would wake up at about 2 o'clock in the morning because my body became to the point where instead of drinking alcohol making you sick, not drinking it would make me sick. So I would start getting up at like 2 o'clock in the morning and drink a few shots and go back to sleep for 2 or 3 hours and then get up and go to work. And for some reason, this seemed normal to me. And one night I got up. So we got married in June, and in October, that following October, I woke her up, my wife, at 2:30 in the morning and said, "Hey, you don't know what's going on with me really, and I've got a serious problem. And I've got to go to treatment, and I've got to go today." And so she got behind me. That morning, I even told our daughters about it, and they were supportive. They wanted me to be better for them. And so I went to treatment, went to an inpatient for 21 days. The biggest gift that treatment gave me was seeing that, they kind of grouped us out, men, all separate because we're different. Is that, that other men had trouble too. The other people had problems. Mental health and addiction is very isolating. It makes you think, I'm the only one struggling with this. Nobody can identify with that. I'm going to tell you, no matter how bad you think your situation is, there's somebody out there with a worse situation than you. And I discovered that I could team up with other men and I could talk, because men don't talk. That's our biggest flaw, is we do not talk. And so I started, I stayed there for 21 days. But even though I went on my own accord, I still kind of felt like I was being punished, because why couldn't I drink like everyone else? I learned some coping mechanisms while I was in there. They taught you how to start handling your emotions. But really, for the past 20 years, I had used alcohol to handle any emotion I went through. Was it a good emotion, a bad emotion? Any emotion, I thought that's how I handled it. So I didn't know how to handle anything, to the point where when my wife picked me up, I wouldn't even drive home, because I was like, I don't know what this outside world's like. I don't know if I'm even going to like my wife, because I was pretty much intoxicated the whole time at some level. So I came out of treatment, and so I convinced myself that I could go back and drink like everyone else. So I was really only sober for about 6 weeks, and it did not take long once I went back for the train to come off the tracks. And I was just back where I was, having to drink at work to keep from shaking so bad that people would notice. But I was still holding down my job. I was still doing all these things. And so I went to treatment in October. The following September, I went again. And I felt like a failure, because that's what it makes you feel like. You relapse, you fail, people got behind you. You've already left your family for 21 days before to go get this help. And then here you are again. But, once again, my family got behind me, and I told my wife, I said, I already know all the things, I'll just go to and do just a few days of detox, because I know alcohol is socially acceptable, but it is one of the most dangerous things to detox off of. You can die, not really off fentanyl or meth or none of that stuff. You just kind of hurt and are sick. Alcohol and barbiturates is a real risk of dying. So it's like, I'm just going to go to detox and I'll leave. I don't need this. I already know. I've already learned the things, And I went, after the detox was over, I was like, I was at a different place mentally now. I was at a different facility as well, but I was ready. That shock of the first time was over. And I called my wife and I said, hey, I know I said I was coming home, but I need to stay. I need to be here for these 21 days. I need to hash out these things that are going on in my head with these counselors. I need them to teach me how to work through this and how to live a life where I'm not abusing substances. And I lost a lot being there. I lost a really good job while I was there, and I don't regret it for a second, because I came out that day, and as of a week ago, I've been 3 years sober. Going from someone and thinking they couldn't go a day to 3 years, it don't make sense. But part of that, or the main part of that, is I had to learn how to feel again. I had to work out all these things in my brain. I had to create a toolbox to be able to use in times of trouble. At my 90-day sober point, I lost my sister, my older sister. She's 4 years older than me. I lost her inevitably to addiction. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
That for that to happen, and that's how people relapse. And I told you'll hear me mention my wife a lot. My wife's my best friend, and a lot of people don't have that. If your wife's not your best friend, get you a best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll speak about that more later as far as having a circle. But I told my wife, I was like, hey, with my sister dying, I don't need to be alone. You need to not leave me alone for the next several days. If you've got to take off work, whatever, don't go anywhere and leave me by myself, because I don't want to mess up. I don't know if I can come back from it if I do, and I don't want this to be the cause. But I started putting things in play. I reached out to other friends that knows my situation and said, hey, this is what's going on. Check on me. I started putting these pieces in to keep me from falling, those security measures. After that, like I said, the thing that treatment taught me is we think we can handle everything on our own because we're big, strong men. We don't talk. We're taught to suck it up and move on. And I'm not saying we got to sit around and cry and be sissies either. I think, for you to face your mental health and work through it, it takes a strong man to do it. And it's not done overnight.
Yeah.
What I've tried to start doing since then is help myself and facilitate the same environment for others. So I started a Bible study at my church, and it's called Bible Study Jiu-Jitsu, because the first hour we do Bible study, and the second hour we do jiu-jitsu and beat the crap out of each other.
That's awesome.
But what it is a place. It's not like your regular, what you'd think of an old little Sunday school thing. We come there and talk about real topics. It's like a group therapy. And I tell them, I need to be so honest in here that I could tell y'all if my wife found me laying out in the yard naked, relapsed, drunk, or if I'm thinking about having an affair on my wife. I need to be able to tell you that. And we created an environment where men could come in and say anything they're dealing with, not be judged, and also know that that's not going to leave that room. Nobody's going to walk outside there and mention a word of it. Once you start putting men in an environment like that, they are blown away when they realize other men have problems too, because they think it's just themselves. I'm the only one dealing with this, or I'm the only one dealing with that. And us guys are from all different walks of life, and we all have problems, but we can work through them together. And recently, I've helped develop a similar thing with another. It's the same thing, but it was with a group outside of our church, and you start getting the same response from people. We're all different ages, from 70 to 20, all different walks of life. And you stand there, you tell them your story, and they're like, man, I thought I was the only one dealing with this, or I thought I was the only one going through this, or I thought no one else had problems, because it's that isolation of your mental health that just closes you in.
Yeah, no, and a few points too that I want to discuss. And first off, I'm sorry to hear about your sister, right? And that's, sorry to hear about that. And, that's tough, right? Especially when it's a family member or close friend. I mean, it's always very tough to deal with emotionally, and it brings out a lot of emotion. So I'm sorry to hear about that. And the second fold is congratulations on 3 years, man. I mean, that's huge. That's a huge accomplishment. I mean, it's said so easy, right? You say it's so easy, but there's a lot of work that you've gone through to get there. So congratulations, and to many more, right? To many more years ahead. Because that's an excellent and something to be very, very proud to accomplish, and I guess the couple of things. So I know you talked about being more vocal, right, with mental health and things like that from a men's perspective. I personally think, from my opinion, that, similar, right? Like I've gone through my trials and tribulations growing up and with my family and friends and just life, right? Where similar, I was just taught to suck it up and essentially compartmentalize everything, right? Just keep pushing it down. And one day you deal with it, right? And whenever that day comes, and so for me, it came during COVID, right? So my wife and I, we had just gotten married. We're in a small apartment, right? We just got married, and here's the world shutting down, and it really forced you to, or at least me, to address my problems, right? Because we had nothing else going on. We had no birthday parties. We had no outings. We had no gatherings. It was like just me and her and just the four walls of our apartment. So that's where I kind of hit rock bottom mentally, where I'm like, shit, there's a lot of stuff that I got going on, right? That I think it's time to undress and talk about, right? And again, I felt that isolation. I'm like, dude, no one's going to believe me, or they're just going to think I'm crazy, or they're going to think, oh, hey, just another person complaining, right? And from a men's perspective, like, that's the last thing you want to be viewed at, right? Like, you don't want to be viewed at that guy that complains and this and that. So, it took me a while to kind of overcome that obstacle mentally, to be like, all right, I need to accept that. And it's for my wife, so I'm in a similar boat, man. Like, my wife's my best friend. We bicker, we love, we make fun of each other, we love each other. Like, it's like the all in one best friend, right? So but she kind of hit me between the eyes. She's like, how can you love someone if you can't love yourself, right? And that was tough, right? That was a tough thing to hear, tough pill to swallow. And she was very supportive throughout my entire journey, right? All the highs, all the lows, and to this day, right? So, but it brought a perspective, like, man, like, it's something we need to address. And I'm glad I did. And, every day is a new journey, right? Like a new page in the book, right? Because as good as I was yesterday, I know life always likes to throw in a wrench, man. When you're feeling good, everything is going well. I often tells my wife, I'm like, man, it's like, we're doing all right. Everything is going so well. Like, we're kind of waiting for that shoe to drop somewhere. But, so far so good. But I think, to your point, it's just from like a men's perspective. Like, again, my whole purpose of even creating this platform is just like, hey, like, whether it's my story, whether it's stories like yourself and other guests, it's like, to reach one person and be like, hey, you're not alone, right? Like whatever you're going through, whatever, it is, it could be relatable, it could be not, but the whole purpose is to not feel that isolation, because it's real, man. Like you feel alone, and you feel like you can't get out of this like slump or slumber, right? And I never really understood it and thought of it, because I always, as any man is, you think you're better than it, right? You're like, oh, that's not me, and that's not going to happen to me. And then you realize, as you start to get better and you start to work on yourself, like, man, like I was in the dumps, and I waited too long, or I waited XYZ, or maybe I did a mistake again, right? And so that's where you start to realize how important this is, and how honestly just real it is,
I don't know what your faith is, but we have never discussed that. But,
Mhm.
we weren't designed to do this alone.
Yeah.
In the beginning, God created Eve as a helpmate for Adam.
Mhm.
But what he said was, he looked and saw that it wasn't good for Adam to be alone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, he created a woman because there's procreation there, but
Yeah.
we weren't designed to be alone. He created another person to be with us. Even though Adam had God, he still needed that other human
Mm-hmm.
to talk with, communicate with. And so as men, like you've touched on, we like to just cut up, talk down to each other. It's kind of how we do our thing. But we got to have a point where we pull people off to the side and have some trust
Mm-hmm.
and talk with them. And
Oh, yeah.
counseling, I don't know, like, I don't know if it's worse here in the South. I'm from Alabama. People apparently think, especially me, I think you have to be really bad to go see a counselor. No, a counselor is something a mentally healthy person needs to do. You
Yeah.
can go speak to someone unbiased. They're unbiased, and they just sit there. They may just listen to you. I don't know, but it helps.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely went plenty, but don't be so scared as a man just to go seek a counselor.
Yeah, no, I agree. And when I did therapy too, like my therapist, she was like, hey, like obviously now in my boat where I was at that time in evolution of my life, like I needed that. So it was almost like too late in the sense of like letting everything kind of build up. But one of the things she was like, see me next time, right after everything got better, and I felt better, and I started to be better. Be like, she was like essentially like, don't wait until you crumble to come see me, right? So to your point, like, see me proactively, see me just to check in, like, hey, and the non-biased thing is where you hit the nail on the head, right? Because obviously, like, I've got my wife, I've got my best friends, I've got my guys, right? Like, and we're all very open with each other, right? But there's always that like 1% of you, right, where you feel like, oh, I can't really be like that vulnerable sometimes, right? And this person, as a counselor and therapist, like, man, they're all ears. Like, they're willing to just listen to you, let you vent it out, and it's a blessing, man. Like, it's that non-biased feeling. They're there for you, and guess what? They have good feedback, and if they don't, at the end of the day, they just listen to you for 30 minutes, an hour, and you feel good out of it, right? The biggest thing, it's like, yeah, be proactive about it. Like, do that outlet. That way you don't build up anymore. You don't have that anchor weighing you down where it's like, now it's like you're kind of forced your hand to do so,
I don't want this to sound daunting to everyone, but it's just the reality of it, or it is for me. Mental health is a full-time job for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes, a lot of it becomes autopilot and just becomes what I do. But it's something that when I wake up in the morning, I start the first thing with that attitude of gratitude. I'm thankful, that I'm waking up sober, that I'm not waking up in a hospital or something. A lot of times in the morning, I'll think about whatever my worst day was that just comes to mind. And I'm thankful that I'm not there. I might be tired. I might not have slept good. I might not have whatevered. but I'm happy for that. I start my day off that way. And, you know, I'll do, which I'm a believer in the creator. If, you know, whoever is listening to this is not, yours may look a little bit different, but that's where I get a lot of my, because whether you are or not, you can definitely say things that come from the Bible are good
Mhm.
for you, period, just because some of it's just good advice, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, I get up, like I said, attitude of gratitude. I'm thankful. I listen to a short 5-minute podcast. That's a Bible study every morning. I go to the gym before I go to work in the morning.
Hmm.
That one right there sucks, but your
Yeah.
day is different. You're,
Hmm.
you have that sense of accomplishment before you've ever gone to work. You've accomplished something. And that not only does stuff for your physical body, but it just does so much for your mind. You walk in the door of work and like you've already accomplished something and you're already on top instead of dragging in late. I get to
Hmm.
work early every day. I get to work. I work at a small company. I get to work before anybody else does because if I get there first, I can set the tone.
Mm.
If someone else gets there first and they're in a bad mood, I have to walk into them.
Oh
If I
yeah.
get there first, I can set the tone. Even if they come in a bad mood, they got to see me. I'm gonna smile at them, and say, "Hey, how you doing today?" Da da da. You know, and it just I have to stay focused on it. Like I can't keep up with like politics and stuff anymore.
Yeah.
It's just I think it's good to be informed. Don't get me wrong. Um, it's just too much. It's too much
Hmm.
for my mental health. I can't do it. Um, my social media is not good for a lot of people. It's good for me because the only thing that comes on my social media is people like you, mental
Hmm.
health, uh, addiction, faith based, all everything else I don't follow, so it does not pop up. I use it as a tool for me to help
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
and
No,
you've got to learn yourself. You know.
oh, 100%. And I think too, so, I'm very similar, right? So I thank God pretty much every day, right? Whether it's in the morning, usually at night, when I'm like, like I'm finally in bed and I'm like, man, like thank you for like just another day. To your point, every day is not perfect. I can sleep well, or I can have a rough day at work, or just a long day of lifing, right? Errands, you name it. But I'm
Mhm.
always thankful because I'm like, man, like I could do that, right? Oh, for example, I went out to dinner and we had crappy service. But guess what? I was able to even afford to go out to dinner, right, in the first place, right? So, like, I try to
Yeah.
find the gratitude in like little things, and I think personally, I took that a lot for granted before my mental health journey, right? And I was always thankful, and I'm a very thankful person. But I always took that. I feel like now that I've been on my journey for a while now, and pretty much for like ongoing 5 years, right, since the pandemic, but like I started to appreciate life a little bit more, right, from a different lens, and like that
Mhm.
gratitude piece. And yes, I'm thankful, right? When I go to church, like I'm like, as unfortunately I don't go as often as I do. Actually, I should, right? But I do go, and when I do make the effort, right, same thing. It's like just the gratitude and just appreciation, man. Like you start to realize like there's a lot of people in life that are, hey, doing a hell of a lot better than you are, but there's also a lot of people that are doing a lot worse, right? So just recognizing and appreciating what you have is as little or as big as it is a big thing. I think the other thing you talked about, like accomplishments, right? Like, whether as big or as little, I think people get caught up in the act of like, if I don't do something super big for my day, I can't be accomplished. Or if I don't do this big career move, I don't find that sense of accomplishment. Like you said, like you go into the gym, like you check that mark off for your day, you're starting on the good note. Mine's even as simple as making my bed in the morning, right? Like my side of the bed.
Yeah.
I always tell my wife, like we wake up, she's a teacher, so we wake up pretty much the same time, give or take, every morning. And yeah, like I'll just make the bed. Like now I know at the end of the night, after my long day, man, I got clean bed, ready for me, right, to go to sleep. So that's my little accomplishment, right? And it seems
Yeah.
silly, but it's my thing, right? So again, I think people, for everyone listening too, right? Like everyone's journey in mental health, and I echo this all the time, is so different, right? And obviously, you want to listen to people like yourself, like me, and other creators and people out there all the time about their stories and how they've gotten better. But really, there's no one size fits all, right? You take the good from people, you take their
Right.
lessons, and you kind of mold it into yourself, right? Because no one knows truly what you're going through or your experience better than yourself, right? So,
Right.
and that to me was a bit daunting in my journey in the beginning, right? Because I'm seeing everyone go through these things, and I'm like, well, that might work for me, but that might not work for me, and what if it doesn't, right? So I would automatically like discourage myself automatically, right, without even trying it, and
Yeah.
and and that's a big hurdle too, right? And the realizations of like, all right, like my biggest thing was like, I just want to be better than yesterday at whatever it was, right? Like whether it's feeling
Yeah.
better, being more appreciative, being more just happy, you name it, just a little bit better. Because to your point earlier, man, like it takes time. It's no overnight success, and people often get discouraged by that because it's not a quick, oh well, I tried today and tomorrow I'm not better. Well, clearly I'm not doing something right. It's like, no, that's not it. And if it was an overnight success, no one would really talk about it, but it's like it really
Yeah.
takes time and effort and just showing up every single day, right? The good days, of course, are always easier, but there's always the bad days too, right? And everyone's bad and good is such a different extreme, right? That you just got to keep trying little by little. So, yeah, it's definitely a
The
journey
one
for
thing
sure.
you pointed out a while ago about when something bad happens, like I've even had a situation like, oh, this car broke and it cost me $500 or whatever. But now I look at it as, hey, there was a time in my life I didn't have $500.
Mm-hmm.
Here's $500 fixed car. It's how you look at things, and it
Yeah.
changes everything about your life.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And perspective is definitely something where you learn to appreciate and value more, because exactly like, I was always so negative minded kind of in some way, like where I'm like so bummed about everything, right? And it was just like, all right, something's got to give. And then when you start to see from a different perspective, again, you're just appreciative. You're like, all right, well, was it that bad? Right. Am I still going home to my house where I have hot water, a roof over my head, right? A truck that I drive, whatever that is, right? Like, is it that bad?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man. So no, that's good stuff. I know you talked about it briefly earlier about obviously your journey with rehab and things like that. But I guess once you got out and obviously now being 3 years sober, what did that journey look like for you to get there? That 3 year sober milestone.
To get from treatment to where I am now,
Yeah. Yeah. Like, how was that journey for you?
really tough and really rewarding. It's not easy, like you said. If it was easy, people wouldn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a continual work. It's a continual process. One big thing that you can do is what you and I are doing right now. We've come through it and are still going through it, but we're trying to help others in the process. And so like what I do on, say Instagram, I try to post something almost every day. Do I have 1,000 people like something I post? No, I'm not doing it for the 1,000 though. I'm doing it for
Mm-hmm.
the one person that reaches out said, I needed to hear that today, or this done this for me, or that done that. Because when you're giving back, that makes you conscious of what you're doing for yourself. And also, I come to realize that you're almost building people around you that depend on you. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like people depend on me to keep myself together for them.
Mm-hmm.
My guys in my two different circles of men's ministry, they depend on me not to fall. My wife and kids do too, but it's easy for a man to get numb to that over time. So the more people I build around me that depends on me, the stronger I become because I keep working harder at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's almost like an accountability, right? Of constant accountability,
Yeah.
right? And similar to you, right? Like when I started my platform and podcast and, you name it, like, there's people nowadays that go into social media and they just want to hit that one viral video, that one viral post, and they want to make all this money and yada, yada, yada. Right. But what's the purpose of that? Like, what are you getting out of that? Right. And very similar to you, like I did this for that one person every
Yeah.
day that's looking for, the outlet, that's looking for a sign, that's looking for a something, right? A sign from above, right? Like, hey, you know, help me out, because I've been there, right? I went on social media and I would look up like mental health quotes, or I would Google that, or I would do like mental health journey or something like that. And a bunch of folks would come up, right? And all shapes and sizes of followings, all shapes and sizes of post amount, you name it. But like, I did it for the quote. I did it for the saying, right? So I'm 100% with you, man. Like I'm doing this for the bigger good, right? Versus the
Mhm.
quote unquote fame, right? And I think a lot of folks,
Yeah.
unfortunately, don't have that mindset, right? And they go in it for like an ulterior motive, right? Hey, I'm going to do this platform regardless of topic, right? Just to get famous, and that's it. And, I know you mentioned it earlier, but dude, social media is it's a double-edged sword, man. Because
Yeah.
as much as you can see all the positive stuff, you see a lot of negative garbage, right? That's not positive for you at all, right? And then it starts to put you like in a rabbit hole, and then you start to doubt yourself, or thinking negatively about things that you shouldn't have in the first place. So yeah, I get it. It's definitely an interesting piece or tool, but it's also a great resource depending on how you leverage it.
People can also get addicted to the likes and the follows and
Oh
all
yeah.
of that, and let that affect their mental health. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people I've seen go down that road, and that's a big reason that it's not suggested for some people,
Oh
or
yeah.
not in their first year of working on themselves, not to get on there. And so if I ever find myself on there being concerned about how many people like something or how many people's follow me or whatever, I just kind of put the phone away for a while and remember why I'm doing it.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, you have to reevaluate and reground yourself, right? Like, hey, this is why. And yeah.
also, one thing you have to do as a man too, um, on your social media is full of women. So, oh, you might try to justify, oh, well, she's got clothes on or she's doing this. I'm going to tell you guys, this will help you so much if you don't follow any of those women with anything like that.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's just a woman with a bikini or whatever on, or just
Mhm.
whatever she's got on, but it will take you down that road one piece at a time. You'll start just dropping your guard, dropping your guard, dropping your guard. Next thing you know, you're on some kind of porn site. You've done went down this rabbit hole. Now you've got to fight this addiction or problem you have. So if you'll go ahead and just eliminate that, that'll help you a lot on your social media as well.
Oh yeah, and it's you mentioning that brought up. So when my wife and I we got married 6 years ago, we had to go. We got married in a Catholic church, and we had to do like some courses prior to getting married, at the church. We did like a pre-Cana class and some other stuff. But one of the speakers essentially echoed what you said, right? And then in the form of seduction and things like that on social media, because you think mentally it's harmless, right? Like, oh, well, it's just a photo, but then you realize that then it's just a photo, then it's another photo, then it's, then the unfortunate algorithm, right, from all these social media platforms. Oh, well, if Laz liked 2 or 3 of these photos, why don't we send some more, right? With anything, it could be with anything, it could be cars, podcasters, you name it, right? That's their job, is to push the algorithm. And then you see yourself in the slippery slope, right? And then yeah, it's hard to justify. And then you start to lose track of like, well, how did I even get here, right? And all it takes is that one thing. And yeah, and social media is meant to do that. They're meant to trap you in the algorithm. There was like this Netflix documentary my wife and I saw about a year ago, or maybe longer. I want to say it was on Netflix. It was called The Social Dilemma. And it talked about how the big, Instagram, Facebook, and I want to say either TikTok or another platform, but those big 3, how ultimately they all culminate together, right? That there's a big server everything goes into, they work together, and they're like, okay, well, if Laz is on Instagram looking at this, well, tomorrow on Facebook we're gonna post that, right? And that way it's like a ever going loop, right, of like trickery. But yeah, it's definitely better to stay away. And to your point, like when I started my mental health journey too, man, like I deleted everything from my phone pretty much, with the exception of like my text messages and like my basic necessities, to really reset. Because the other part is I would get like, okay, at the time, like I was 28, 27, right? And like I would go on social media and XYZ just bought a brand new car. Oh, well, he's my age, and how come I don't have that? Oh, XYZ just bought a huge mansion. Well, I live in an apartment, so why can't I do that, right? So like every little thing starts like, pinpointing to like a downward spiral, and self-doubt and all that stuff that, yeah, if you really want to like work on yourself, like I always tell people, like take the hard reset, cut it all off, and build a strong foundation. Where now I see people, oh, you got you got a Range Rover? Dude, that's cool, man. I like my truck. Oh, you got a beautiful house? Good for you, man. Like, I love my house I'm in right now. It may not be huge, but I got a roof overhead, right? So like I start to appreciate that more than like a couple of years ago. I'm like, dude, this sucks. Like I got this house, or I'm living here, or I didn't go on vacation, and all these people are, and that obviously takes a huge toll on your mental health as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. And then I guess,
Let me share one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since I talk about having a circle, men being around you. I want to read one scripture because, people think the world's so bad and stuff right now. It's all the same. The world's always been this way in some form or another. But this is Ecclesiastes, is written by Solomon, known for being a very wise man. And this is still true today. It's Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 12. It says, 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, 2 people laying close together can keep each other warm, but how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but 2 can stand back to back and conquer. 3 are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. That right there stands true today.
Oh, 100%.
When you build that circle together, even if you don't talk about what's going on with you at a period of time, your brothers can see that you look different or you're acting
Mhm.
different, and they'll call you out on it. And that's what that's saying. If they see you falling, they can grab you, they can help you. And
Yeah.
so, if there's one thing you take away from all I've talked about today, is don't do this alone. You're not alone. There's other people like you in this world that's going through similar things.
hmm and I think too with that, I mean, that's an excellent point. And then the other thing too, where I realized kind of in my journey, it's kind of the opposite in the sense of those that didn't help me, I realized their true colors, right? I realized that they were
Yeah.
not my friend, my true friend, right? So like, similar to what you mentioned earlier, I did uh unfortunately, right, a good job of hiding it, right? I was still going to work every day. I was still going out to my buddy's dinner. I was still traveling, the whole work of life, right? But after a while, like I remember my two buddies, like we went out to dinner and they're like, dude, like for real, what's going on? Right. And then you start to realize like, okay, like, it may have taken a while, right? But they realize something's up, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
to that, when I started my mental health journey and kind of like working on that, I also quickly realized those that weren't supportive, who I thought were my main guys, right? Or my main people or my main friends, right? So then that also put in perspective, like, okay, I think I now need to reevaluate my circle, right? And realize that, hey,
Yeah.
we're all here for great days and all the funs, man, all the highs, all the everything. But a true friend's also there with you for the lows, right? And they're right beside you and they're vulnerable. So yeah, I agree 100%, man. Like you can't do this alone. But I think perspective on who is there with you is ultimately the biggest thing as well, because I thought people were my ride or dies, as they would say, right? And then when I'm like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I got something going on, or hey, I'm not going to be able to make it to your house today because I'm not mentally okay. Instead of saying,
Mm-hmm.
hey, that's all right, man, no worries, it was like, well, you're being selfish. Well, you're being this. Well, it's like, well, okay, well, I guess we're not on the same page, and that's okay in life. But it's important to recognize that too, I think 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I have some of those friends that I send silly memes to,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have those friends that I send the text to says, "Hey, I'm going through this, and this right now.
Yeah.
You got time to talk to me for a minute?" They're different people. At one point, they were all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Before I started down this road, they were all the same. But like you said, you figure out who's really there for you and who's not.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a good but also sad realization. But yeah, I agree. You start to categorize that friendship in a different perspective. Um, cool. And then I guess my last question, man, if you can go back to yourself at a younger age or a different time period in your life and talk to yourself during a tough time, what would you tell yourself then?
You can't carry it all. It doesn't make you weak to ask for help. Um, Also, when you reach out, I, I've discovered in my life that there's good to have men around you on every level. I
Mm-hmm.
have older men around me that pours into me, and I have younger men around me that I pour into. You should be giving and receiving. Um, this life ain't easy. It
No.
was not meant to be. It's not promised that it would be easy. It's rough, but you don't have to do it alone, and you can develop tools to manage your life, manage your stress, and manage your mental health. Um, be on a constant pursuit. Like you said, you just want to be better every day,
Mm-hmm.
just a little.
Yeah.
So
No.
just be on a constant pursuit of betterment. Look at things, be grateful.
Hmm.
Don't walk around pissed off all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's very easy to do, right? But no,
Mhm.
I'm with you 100%, man. I think the biggest thing is just not to put all that weight on your shoulders, right? And I've been there, and I've gotten to a point where mentally or metaphorically, like I just couldn't anymore, right? Like you just can't, and as much as you think you're strong, as much as you want to, like it's okay, right? And I think there's a difference between speaking out and talking about it and getting better versus some individuals where they struggle on that piece and they just make it all about their problems and talk about the problems, but then there's no back end where there's the action, right? Like, yes, we've all got the things we go through. We can talk about it till we're blue in the face, and we're that's the whole point of mental health and venting and talking to your guys, your peers. But it's also the action piece too, right? Where you have to have that will inside yourself to then recognize, like, okay, there's an area of opportunity in my life where I can make myself better. How am I going to do that? Right. And let's come up with that plan. And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest hurdle, but you have to talk about that and make it pen to paper and then paper to productivity. Right. And,
Yeah.
Because without that, you're going to stay in that same circle. Because that's what happened to me. I just constantly talked about, like, yeah, all my struggles and all my stressors, but there was never that, well, what am I going to do about it? Right. And I can just sit here and complain all day and be in a pissed mood all day. But if I don't take action, who will? Right. And that's why I'm like, okay, well, I got to take that action myself, because if I don't, no one's going to do it for me, and I can't be the best husband. I can't be the best son. I can't be the best friend, or best, honestly, version of myself if I don't do anything about it,
hmm I think it's important for men too. Like we're our own worst critics, and so when you're on this journey of betterment,
Mm-hmm.
congratulate you, celebrate the little victories. Don't come home and say, "Well, I really showed my ass in traffic today." Well,
Yeah.
you might not have done it as bad, note that, but
Mm-hmm.
also look at what else you did good that day. Don't always just look at the negative things in your life. Look at where you are getting better. Write it down. Keep a journal.
Yeah.
You'll be able to track that way your self
Mm-hmm.
improvement. But give yourself some grace. Every day is not going to be the best day. Just do your best to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Now, and I was going to say the same thing. So, like, as I got on this journey, like, my wife bought me a journal, right? And nothing fancy. It was like a marble notepad, right? But just something for me to write my thoughts down,
Yeah.
because I realized that most of my, I guess, hurdles weren't really there outside of my mind, right? So mentally, I was my own worst enemy, right? I would put myself in these scenarios. I would think about all these what ifs, and I would have a constant headache every day, right? Honestly, of just like working all these what ifs, and so every morning I just write them down, whatever those thoughts are. Bad, big, small concerns, you name it. I just write them down, and that helps me release them mentally, so I start to feel better. And then at the same time, I'm like, if there is an action item, all right, I see it. When I do it, I cross it off. There's my sense of accomplishment, right? All right, I did that one task today. Hey, I'm worried about my truck, my engine light's been on now for 2 days. What's up? Got it taken care of, cross it off. One less worry to go to, right? Or, hey, I'm thinking I'm overwhelmed about this scenario coming up. Let me write it down. Maybe as I'm writing it down, I think of things like, oh, maybe it's not that bad. Or, hey, maybe what if I look at it from this perspective, right? So journaling, as silly as some may think it is, right? Because it's really just pen and paper. It's such a helpful tool that is underutilized, I feel like, in this whole journey.
hmm One of the best stress management tools that I've learned is it's simple but not easy, but it's got to where I've just almost run this on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
Is something I'm really worrying about and stressing over. Can I do something about it today? If I can, do what I can about it today. But if I can't do anything about it today, I just have to put it to the side. I'll give myself 10 minutes to worry about it, think about what I can do about it, and then I just have to put it to the side and I can readdress it again tomorrow. Don't procrastinate. I'm not saying procrastinate, but if there's nothing I can do about this specific thing today, why continue to use all my energy worrying
Mm-hmm.
about it today? Pick it
Oh
back up
yeah.
tomorrow, give it that 10 minutes again. And eventually you're going to be able to do something about it. But you can't just let yourself drown in that stress.
Oh yeah. And the biggest thing too, and it's again very easier said than done, but control what you can control, right? There's so many
Yes.
outlying variables in life that come your way, and
Mm-hmm.
some of which you can control, right? Like, and others, most often than not, those that at least I can't control were my biggest worries, right? And I had to realize, like, man, like, whether I have a good day or whether I have a bad day, I'm not going to change the weather today, right? The weather's not going to be like, oh, well, Laz is pretty upset today or pretty happy. Let's rain, snow, whatever. Or, hey, just because I'm going through this problem in life, like my job isn't going to alter their job for me, right? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
that's a line, control. But if I get home and I'm like, hey, I don't have food in the fridge. Well, guess what? I can control that. I can go to the supermarket. I can buy food, make dinner, right? Hey, my
Yeah.
car's low on gas. I can go to the gas station, get gas. Or, hey, I'm having a bad mental day. I can, unwind for a little bit, or I can go read a book, or I can go to the gym, or I can just go walk, right? But often than not, I realized that those things that I couldn't control were my biggest mental hurdle. And again, it takes time, right, to kind of overlap that. But to your point about like worrying about the effect of something, if it's today, obviously address it. If it's tomorrow, worry about it tomorrow. Take one thing off your plate and worry about it then.
Mm.
And so, yeah, no, and this was great, man. I know I appreciate the time, and I appreciate everything we've talked about. It's been a pleasure, and I think episodes like
Absolutely.
this, or platforms like this, are just another tool where people can leverage for their better good, right? Again, there's a lot of negative out there. There's a lot of things, like I know you talked about it earlier, like life's pretty much been, the world's been crazy all the time. Right now, unfortunately, we
Yeah.
just have more access to news streams. We have more access to channels, right? So that kind of creates a lot more negativity, and everything, right? But leveraging outlets like this, leveraging positivity, I mean, that goes a long way. So again, I can't thank you enough for jumping on here. I think my last thing is, where can users find you, whether they're listeners, and things like that, or maybe local to you, to your church, or anything like that.
You could find me at Rick's Road to Recovery on Instagram. I just now branched out into TikTok on the same, but I'm still working there, but you can reach me there too. Um,
Awesome.
if you identify with something and have a question, just inbox me. I'll get back with you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, no, again, this was a pleasure, sir. And I'll make sure to link it down, as well, for people to find you. And I can't appreciate you enough. So thank you very much.
Sir, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right. Awesome. All right.